Good evening.
All right, lunatic,
We
you're going if you can hear me, because he can't. So,
uh, so guys, we're Chris is mobile right now. We're having a little technical difficulty. Can everybody hear me? Can everybody hear me? Does anybody hear me? Check one. Check one. Is anybody there?
all right, Josh.
Yeah. Okay. So you guys hearing Chris? Okay. So Chris is on his way home. He'll be home in a couple of minutes. So we'll go ahead and start and let him catch up. Okay. Good evening, everybody. It's been an interesting week here. We've had we had a submarine that got that didn't quite make it to the Titanic, and then Chris has been on a rescue mission today. Actually, not a rescue mission. One of our truck owners, actually, he's watching or listening right now. Josh has bought another lunatic truck, and we went to get it today. Took our brand new toter. This is, I think, our maybe our third or fourth mission with the toter, and he's on his way. He's already back in West Virginia with the truck. He's in his pickup now on the way home, where he can get to his podcast studio. But anyway, we're running a little behind tonight. Apologize for that. But let me go ahead and talk about our sponsor, Pittsburgh Power. They have renewed with us again for another year, which we appreciate that. And as you all know, we are big proponents of the OPS system and, of course, the max mileage for everything that has an emissions system on it. We use both the products. The OPS is the first modification I ever did way back in 2009. And y'all know the story, I'm sure, over and over again about how we have 1.8 million miles on that truck with no in frame. And we have to attribute that to the fact that it woke up every day of its life with fresh oil in it. So the the catalyst, the max mileage, is even more critical to operation now because we have taken in a couple of um, trucks with DEF and DPF, and we're kind of experimenting with maybe the Lunatic version 2 truck being a emissions truck, and so the product that we've been advocating the catalyst, we're certainly using it. We use it on all of our trucks that are EGR and up, but with us that's everything except for these two trucks that we just brought on. We got a 2016, 2018 Cascadia, both of them DD15s, and so we are and I think one or both of them are automatics, and which is great. We have a new driver this week. We had an impromptu orientation because we had a driver kind of fall in our lap that was going to have to wait a long time before our next scheduled orientation, which is about the middle of July, and we didn't want to do that, and she didn't want to do that, obviously. So Chris and I did a midweek orientation this week in West Virginia, and she's out and running as we speak, and she's in one of those Cascadies with the automatic. So we're looking forward to seeing how she does, and it's all good.
Can you hear me at
Um,
all?
I can hear you when you're really fuzzy, but yes,
Well, you just keep going in 15 minutes.
15 minutes. I got to go 15 minutes. Huh? So, all right. So, Chris might
Yep.
know. Yeah, he's like he's cutting out. He clips out for some reason. He starts and then he clips. So, don't know what it is. But he'll be with us in a few minutes. So, anybody got anything they want to talk about? We don't really have an open topic tonight. We don't have much to talk about that's new. I don't think. We're obviously. Would you ever buy another Mercedes? Well, I wouldn't. I wouldn't look for it. But I'd buy it before I'd buy, um, an emissions truck. I mean, look, I had good luck with mine. The only thing we don't like about it is it doesn't have a Jake. Parts are a little more expensive, for it. But it's been look, it's been a great truck to me. Okay, now I had a very specific use. I was a regional running light loads, and it was perfect for that. It would be horrible if you had to go from here to Salt Lake City and back every week. But for what I used it for, it was fine. It did great. So, and by the way, we are bringing it. We still own the truck, and we are bringing it back, and that's going to become our tow truck. We're going to make that our permanent toter vehicle. So we'll be be seeing it back in on the road again. So, not think we're I don't think we're going to haul freight with it, but we're just going to use it to tow trucks around. So the no Jake will be a big issue. Yeah, it is a big issue. And so that's the big limitation. It had plenty of power for I mean, it's not like a cat. It wouldn't be something you want to use for very very heavy loads, but my loads were typically 18,000 or less, and so it was fine. I mean, and plus I got 9 miles a gallon out of the thing, so it was a fine truck for me. But what I recommend you using a normal OTR operation? Probably not. Now we have one now. We have one that's not ours. We're running it for another BCO, and we're pulling a Conestoga with it. And and the driver that's in it has got great fuel mileage. He got like 8+ fuel mileage, 8+ miles per gallon last week. So it was, it's doing fine. So we'll see. We'll keep you apprised on how it does. And Leon, yes, it was. It made me a bunch of money. Actually, we figured it up when it was well over between $3 and $4 million we made for that truck. So how long is the wait list for adding on a truck? Well, it just depends. First of all, it depends on the truck. And then it depends on you because we don't take investors, so you have to be knowledgeable about the industry and understand trucking, and it has to be paid for. We don't take any trucks in that are not they don't have paid they're not paid for. And full disclosure here, we have about 3 or 4 trucks in the pipeline right now that we're bringing on. There's some degree of being in our system, and we have to fill those trucks with drivers, obviously. And hiring a driver for us is a 2 or 3 month proposition. Most of that's because of Landstar. But even with us, I mean, Chris and I, we do a pretty good job of vetting and interviewing again, and so we're not usually we don't try to make these decisions really really quick unless we find an all star, and then we want to try to get them in here as soon as we can. But most of the time, it's a 2 or 3 month process. So you bring the truck on, and then we have to find a driver for it because we can't find a driver and not have a truck. So it's kind of have to work backwards like that. So once we get a truck, then we start looking for a driver. So it sits for 2 or 3 4 months, before we probably have a driver in it. So and it has to be in the system those 4 months. So it does eat a little grass, about to the tune of about $800, $1,000 a month, while it'll go negative before we put somebody in it. But then, once it gets on the road, it chews that negative up pretty quick, 3 or 4 weeks, and it's back to making money. So a lot of it too depends on what we have to do to the truck. You may think it's ready to go, and Landstar may think it's ready to go, but when Chris and I start looking at it, and when Carl was doing them for us, I can promise you it's not ready to go. So depends on what we have to do. There's a lot of things that we look at that DOT inspectors or Landstar inspectors don't catch. Matter of fact, we had a truck today. Had a Landstar inspection yesterday morning. Driver got in today. First thing, leaking brake chamber. So I mean, how do you miss that? So we have to get all that stuff fixed so it's reliable for a driver, and sometimes that just takes time. Some of the modifications that we like to do for fuel mileage. Obviously, we're a fuel mileage company, so we're going to do a lot of things to it to improve the fuel mileage, and depend on how much you want to spend up front, or whether we have to do that out of proceeds of the truck. There's different things that go into that. Do I have to take a drug test? Yeah, you do. Um, and have y'all tried out any Pro Stars with N13S? And the answer to that is no and no. I mean, we know people who have ProStars, but I don't know anybody that's got an N13S unless Chris you do, but I don't. Um, what are Carl credential? Well, let me tell you about Carl's credentials, okay? Carl worked for a TA in West Virginia for 22 years. Um, he never had one of those certificates on the wall ever because Carl couldn't take the test and pass the test. But everybody that worked there couldn't do a job without having Carl come help them. Um, everybody who, I mean, every truck that we ever had worked on at all the credentialed places, certified factory places, we had to take it to Carl for him to unfuck it. Um, so Carl's credentials are that Carl has an incredible work ethic. He has an incredible desire to make things right. He can see, when you take a truck in, they barely look at what you take it in for. Carl assumes that that's and then he's looking at everything else, not in a way that's trying to make you money or cost you money. He's looking at a way to try to keep you off the side of the road. And he was always famous for these color coded lists. He would make a list and it would be red if it was really really bad and not safe. It'd be another color if it's going to fail in the next 90 days, and another color if you need to do it when you get the money. And he was incredibly accurate with that. But he just looked at, they could see things that nobody else could. He could hear air leaks coming off the road. Nobody else could. We tell a story about, you were talking about my truck a while ago. I put a fast system in that truck early on. So it had a secondary fuel pump, secondary lift pump. And that concealed a fuel prime problem that I had almost the whole life of the truck. Never could fix it. Spent thousands of dollars at different shops looking for it. Okay, nobody could fix it. So we'd already, I was already out of the truck and somebody else was driving it. And we took it in. First time Carl ever saw it. First time he ever saw the truck. Walks on the truck, goes, "What are you going to do about that?" Chris said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "What are you going to do about that fuel leak right there?" He found this fuel leak. No, I mean, I'm telling you, I spent thousands of dollars looking for this fuel leak. Because what would happen is it would let one tank run out of fuel before the other one did. It was a pain in the ass. Okay. So, because the return lines, those tanks don't equalize. It goes into one, stays into one. So anyway, what had happened is there was a couple of brass fittings where the two return lines came together, and over the years, those things rubbed against each other and created this tiny little pinhole. And that was all it took to lose the prime in on one side of that. And he found that in 30 seconds. And I've had it at Freightliner, Detroit, everywhere. Shops that have always been bragged about as being great shops. So that's Carl's credentials. All right. So no, you're not going to look up and see that he's not going to have those patches down his arm and all that kind of stuff. That's not who Carl is. But let me tell you this, okay? Nobody, the people he worked for didn't appreciate him. I can tell you that because Carl would not. 5 o'clock meant nothing to Carl. If you had a problem and Carl was working on it, he worked on it until he got fixed. If that meant all night and into the next morning, that's fine. And there was one time that we know about that Carl did that. He worked on his own late, got the thing chopped done. Carl lived about an hour from where he worked. So it's like 5 o'clock in the morning. We finally gets done. He was supposed to be off at 5 o'clock p.m. So he jumps in his car, goes home, take a shower, come back to go to work at 8 o'clock. He was 5 minutes late and they wrote him up. So that was kind of the final straw. And, we had been encouraging Carl to go out on his own. We turned him into a rock star here, He got so bad we couldn't get our trucks worked on because we had talked about him so much. But a lot of guys run from Carl because Carl finds things that are wrong. When I first met Chris talked about Carl. Oh, shit, he's there. I'm leaving, because he didn't want to have to spend the money that it was going to take to make the truck right. And I said, Chris, that's exactly what we want. We want to know if there's something wrong. So obviously and then once we did that, then Chris started to understand, appreciating him for what he was. But there's a lot of guys that go in that TA and goes, "Is Carl working?" And they say, "Yeah." They just say, "Never mind, I'll come back. When's he not working?" But that's the kind of guy Carl is. And while we're on the subject of Carl, this I got a QR code up here in the top left corner. Those of you that know Carl, he's in some very serious health issues right now, and really needs your help. As a matter of fact, his wife informed us this week that they're selling their house to help pay for the stuff that Carl needs to get over this problem he's got. So if you have ever met Carl, if you've ever done anything for you, just the legend that we have made him into, if you can find it in your wallet, in your heart to share a little wealth, they certainly need it. And it's a shame what he's going through, and it's to no fault of his own. It's a genetic kind of a thing, but anyway, he's going to have a lung transplant, and that ain't cheap, you know. And so, but anyway, that's the QR code in the top left up there if you guys want to contribute. Let's look at some more questions here. 2 Indianapolis to New Jersey turns and 2 Columbus turns. Yeah, well, kind of close. Indianapolis to Carlisle. It went on to Elizabeth. That's where the load went. But I couldn't get it there in one shift, so I would take it to Carlisle. I would drop it to a local guy, and he would take it on up there to Elizabeth, drop it, sit and wait for it, bring the other one back, and I would have a 10-hour break by then, and I would jump, take it back to Indianapolis. So I did 2 turns of those every week, and then 2 turns. On Friday night and Saturday, I did a round trip from Indianapolis to North Jackson or Youngstown, Ohio. That was my 4.5 year every week trip, just under 4,000 miles. So, but anyway, well, it was probably close to 3,500 miles, I guess. I'd have to do the math on it again. I forget what it was, but let me tell you this: you had to keep the left door closed. I can tell you that. All right. So, but that was my FedEx. It was a FedEx Express route that I did. Saying owner op. So I probably need to be opening these up so you guys can see them, and I will. All right. Say an owner op didn't find y'all before getting started and has a truck payment. What would be the benefit of paying it off if it eats up all cash reserves? Well, the benefit would have been not to have gone in debt to buy it to begin with. That's what we teach here. Save your money, pay cash for a truck. The benefit of paying it off, I don't know that there is a benefit. The benefit is you're paying a lot of interest. That's the benefit. Like any debt resolution, the idea is to quit spending money on interest. So that would be the goal here. Would be to get out of debt and not be paying the interest. Somebody asked this question last week. I think Luke asked this question last week. Why do Americans not have any money? It's because they can't wait for anything. This is a perfect example. Let's let's open a trucking business. Let's go borrow money and go buy a truck. That's flawed from the beginning. It worked in 2021. It won't work any other way, any other time for someone that has no money, no credit, no cash. Okay, and they're having to borrow the money to go into business. That's the problem with Americans is we don't save money. We spend everything we spend more than we have. Most people spend more than they make, and that's the reason that they're in debt up to their ass. As opposed to your income is your single biggest wealth builder. Listen, we're big proponents of Dave Ramsey. Somebody made fun of us one night. All y'all do is cram Dave Ramsey shit down people's throat. Absolutely, that's what we do because most people need to hear it. And if you want to be successful in business and you don't have any money, you need to get money, okay? But you need to get it by earning it, not by borrowing it, because all you're doing is making the person who you're borrowing it from wealthy, and you're not. Nor will you ever be. So that's my advice to you. Is now if you've already got a truck, look, we told a bunch of people in 2021 or 2022 that sell the truck. It's never going to be worth more than it is today, and you can't support it. Somebody called us this week with a $6,000-month truck payment. Am I right about that, Chris? $6,000, $1,500 a week truck payment. How, my Lord, first of all, what do you buy that's $1,500 a week? I mean, there's no way. I mean, that person is going to work himself to death to own a truck and nothing else. So I got a neighbor down the street here that I guess he's been here for a while, and I guess he stretched himself thin to buy the house, hadn't had a curtain in 5 years, has no bush. There's not a bush around his house. I mean, he's got a house, and that's it, nothing else. That's what this guy's going to do with this truck. I mean, he's going to have a truck, maybe. I don't even know if he can make that $1,500 a week truck payment. But that's ignorant. That's just not how you do business, And that's we're the weirdos because we don't do it the way everybody else does. That makes us the lunatic, okay? But look, what's the smartest way of doing this? Just keep your job. If you don't have a good job, get a better job because guess what? There's a driver shortage out here. I hear this all the time about how everybody's hiring drivers, but yet none of you guys can find a job, that you like. So get a job, making money, spend less than what you make, spend half of what you make, and then save the rest of it, and then get ready so that you can then go into business the right way and not have a truck payment and not have your soul owed to the man, and that way you can breathe. And you've got money for the first catastrophic unexpected breakdown doesn't put you out of business. That's not a business model. Is let me borrow as much as I can afford to pay on the payment and then not be able to keep the truck the first time something goes wrong. Because maybe something won't go wrong, right? Yeah. So anyway, let's move on. Rocky, I don't have any ASC credentials, but can find and do things that the ones with their names on the wall. Well, that's true. I mean, look. Well, let me give you a little personal example. Okay, I've got a history in the automotive business. Okay, now I'm not a trained mechanic by any stretch. I've been around it. I mean, like any boy growing up in the 50s and 60s, you take shit apart and put it back together. Sometimes you take shit apart and you can't get it back together. That's just part of learning. So, but I'm in the automotive. My dad was always in the parts business, so I kind of followed my dad and worked in the parts and the service and the dealership, service part business. I decided I was going to take some of these tests. I'm a certified air conditioning technician. I'm a certified front end technician, Rocky. I'm a certified manual transmission person. I'm a certified engine person, and I've never worked on any of those for anybody except me in my life. So you could be a good test taker and not know shit from Shinola, okay? Or you can be like Rocky and Carl and know a lot about shit from Shinola and don't give a shit about taking the test or don't or can't, one or the other. Doesn't matter, Testing is first of all, it's very culturally biased. And it's not a good measure. Chris and I, we've gone around this a long time. We basically hire people kind of sight unseen. I mean, we Zoom interview them, but we can't meet them and have these one-on-one knee-to-knee meetings like you would in the regular world if you're hiring somebody. So we have to kind of take things on for face value a lot. And we've kicked around the idea a lot about, is there any kind of testing we could do to try to find out this, that, or the other? We kind of pretty much have ditched it. We've thought about maybe doing some things after they get here just so we know what we're working with so we can modify our approach to people with different learning styles. But the biggest thing that I always told Chris, I said, look, we have never found a test to measure a man's heart or a person's heart. I have to say, I can't say man more because we now have a female driver, so I'd kind of be more gender inclusive here. But because you've heard us talk about Richie, and he's probably our best example. Richie came here, 23-year-old snotty-nosed kid, didn't know anything. Gave him, in my mind, I gave him 30 days to succeed. Here he is now, truck owner. The guy is, he would have, he changed every preconceived notion that we had about him, and a test would probably have knocked him out, at the time, because he even admits he wasn't very good in school. He didn't like school, and so he probably wouldn't have tested very well. He would never have been able to have this opportunity. We've had a couple of people in the program that had learning disabilities of some type or another. Is it not fair for us to give them the opportunity just because they don't test well? So it's not a big fan. So. But absolutely, Rocky is an excellent technician that doesn't have certificates on the wall. Rocky, I might get you a certificate on the wall. I might make up one for you. So, what else we got here? Cash is king, absolutely. If you guys don't know Dave Ramsey, haven't don't listen to Dave Ramsey. Look, I'm not all into the religious part of it, but man, the financial part of it. If you don't have your ducks in a row, it's the best program I've ever seen for you to get your personal wealth, your personal financial situation straightened out, and stop spending money and start making money. So, and he's everywhere. I mean, look, he's on every. I don't know. It's hard to find. But if you don't know him, or you've never heard of him, or you don't follow him, I suggest you do. And even if you think you've got your crap together, you might find out that you really don't. So it's worth a check, all right? Because listen, you look up. I mean, one of the things that we do here that kind of breaks my heart a little bit is we people come here sometimes because they wake up and the desperation hits them. You know, we've had listen, we've had 50-year-olds, 50, we've had 60, 62, 65-year-olds here, okay? And they come because it's not really because they want to be in the trucking on a truck. It's just they're scared to shitless because they're at this age and they haven't done anything for their retirement. And they think this is the best way to do it. I'm telling you, and that you do not want to wait to start doing this. If you're in your 20s and 30s and 40s and you're not working on your retirement, you really, really need to think about that. Because the time value of money, what you can save as a 20-year-old or 30-year-old or 40-year-old a week or a month for your retirement, it is a fraction of what you have to save once you're 55 and 60. You know, because those people are not going to retire. They're going to be driving trucks when they're 75, 89 years old till they can't drive anymore. And then, unfortunately, some of those end up being health situations, you know. But, it's easy to kick the can down the road because you think you got plenty of time. But let me tell you that time runs out. I wake up every morning and think, man, I'm getting really, really, really close to being old, you know? And where did the time go? You know, I talked to Chris. You know, Chris. I remember when I was Chris's age, and I worked my ass off. Okay, and but I look back now and I go, where'd all that time go? You know, if I could go back and be 40, what are you, Chris? 42, 45, 47,
47.
47. I'd be 47 again. Man, I don't know. I probably do some things differently, but anyway, don't to waste time. Okay, I mean, if you've heard of the rule of 72, when you're investing or saving money or whatever, investing, rule of 72 means if whatever your interest rate is divided by 7.2 is how many it take years for your investment to double. So the stock market's average about 11% of the lifetime. So let's just use 10. Okay, if you can average 10% on your retirement on your investment every 7.2 years, that is going to double. So let's say that you waited and you needed the money and it was and that last little that incremental thing was only like 7 years instead of 7.2, and you lose out on $1 million because you had a million, it would have doubled to two in 7.2 years. So get started now, okay? Don't wait. All right, Chris, you with us?
I believe so. Can you hear me now?
I can. Let me see if I got any more any more questions. As a previously ASE certified mechanic, I can say with 100% confidence that all those certifications mean is that someone can read and take a test. Absolutely. I don't disagree with that one. Now, look, I know some really, really good mechanics. I mean, listen, I worked at a Cadillac dealership where it was Cadillac/Volvo, and the number one Volvo tech in the United States of America worked at that. And let me tell you something, motherfucker could take a test, okay? But he also could fix a car, all right? That guy, David Hamilton is his name. Never forget him. He's a Carl kind of guy, but he's also smart and can take tests. So, but anyway, Luke, what you got, Luke? Good evening, lunatics. Was watching Dave Ramsey Net Worth Millionaire theme hour, and they all had something in common: work ethic. How do you improve, enhance work ethic? Work ethic is something you kind of have. I don't know. I think people have work ethic kind of instilled them at an early age. I had spent the weekend 2 weekends ago in Las Vegas with my son, and my son's now 39. And the whole time he was growing up, we always owned businesses, and he was always in our business, and so sometimes I don't think he really wanted to, but we had a pretty good heart to heart talk that weekend, and we're not really together alone that much, and so we were talking about his childhood. He said, Dad, he said, you just don't know how much you have done for me in instilling a work ethic in me that my friends don't have because they didn't grow up like I did, in business. And sometimes you think of that as I've had people in our program use their family as an excuse to not do something. And I'm like, dude, you need to use your family as the excuse to do something, because now I look up at my son, he's super successful and, and got a beautiful family and I'm humbled that he credits me with helping him have that work ethic, because that's what we showed him. Listen, my mom, she quit school after seventh grade. Of course, back then they lived on a farm and people didn't go to school, but they needed to work on the farm, come from a rural agricultural community. And, but my mom I've never met anybody with a stronger work ethic than my mother. That's probably where I got it. She wasn't hugely intelligent, but by God, she was a hard worker. I put them in the dry cleaning business because they didn't have any retirement. And my mom, bless her heart, I couldn't let her be a trainer because he wouldn't train anybody. She'd let them do it. My mom would come in after hours and go back through on the racks, take the clothes off the rack and repress them and put them back on the rack and have them ready for the next morning. But as opposed to teaching the people to do it, because they wouldn't do it to her standards. Hell, I could vacuum the floor. She'd come back behind me and she'd grab that and vacuum it again, because nobody could do it the way she wanted to be. That's work ethic. I don't know how you gain that. I guess if you really, really, really wanted to improve something, you could motivate yourself to do it. But I think people get it so early on, they have it, and that's my experience. Chris, you might have a different take on that, but welcome to the show, Chris Polk.
Yeah, thank you.
Glad
to be here. It's been a long ass day. I was trying to find this, so I wasn't listening to what you were saying. Because somebody in the comments said on a phone you can't scan the QR code. So here is the link. Also, if you we have a Beacons link in bio on both our TikTok page and YouTube. You can get through there. You can get to it through that as well. I'd like to rail on banks for a minute, if I could. Would that be okay? I'd like to rail against the banking system.
You're talking about financial institutions?
Yeah.
Institutions of higher finance. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh my God.
Chris has had a lot of interaction today with the banking industry, so I'm sure he's probably
all right. So yesterday, it was yesterday, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yesterday. Yeah.
Josh texts me, and he's found this truck on Facebook, and the guy's dropped it $10,000, and he was like, because used to be we'd send Carl, go look at a truck, sign off on it. And I'm like, well, I could go up there and look at it. And Larry's like, 15 grand, write the check. I mean, just, if it's got wheels, it runs and the frame's not broke, just pay the man. And so we're like, okay. So Josh talks to the buyer or to the seller, and, they make the deal. And Josh is going to wire him the money, and I'm going to take the toter up there and get it.
Josh is on the slope in Alaska, by the way.
Yeah.
So
he's in Alaska. Okay. Yeah. And so we told the seller, I said, look, you're going to have to, no, maybe it's the day before yesterday. Anyway, I said, look, y'all going to have to get this together, because I know how these wires and stuff work, because you don't want to release the truck until you've got the money. Well, I'm not going to sit up there all day and wait for this to clear. And we get word that the financial institution that this guy uses will only accept the information for the wire transfer from the other bank by fax. I'm like, what the hell is this, 1988? Do you want to send a carrier pigeon? We need to get a wax and sealing wax and send a really fast horse. What the hell? So Josh ends up wiring the money to me, put it in my bank. So at 9 o'clock.
Hang on. He even tried to open up a personal account at that credit union. They wouldn't let him do it because he couldn't verify his identity. So anyway.
So he wires the money to me, put it in my bank account. I go to the bank this morning. I get the money out, cash, put it in an envelope, drive 200 miles to the truck. Now I've got to ride with the guy 15 minutes to his credit union so they can make sure the money's not counterfeit. So we do all the paperwork. So that takes an hour. And I literally pulled in to the lot, backed the truck in. The whole thing is still hooked up, chains and all, lights and everything. Got in my pickup truck, and it was time to hit the button to go live. So my ass is wore out. And I got a big day tomorrow too. So, but guys, it's 2023. It should not be this hard to make a financial transaction in the year 2023. This should not be difficult. It should be, I own money in an account. You have an account. I want to send money. Done. Because they sure as hell don't have a hard time taking money out of my account.
But they're trying to protect you, Chris. Okay,
Yeah.
They're looking out for your best interest. They don't want you to get ripped off. Okay.
Listen, this sweet lady at the local branch, I called her yesterday and I said, listen, here's the situation. One of our strategic partners, I literally used that term. One of our strategic partners has found a truck in Ohio that he would like to buy. And the one place won't take a transfer from the other, a wire transfer. And I said, so can we send the money to me and then I take the money out? And she goes, well, do you know this guy? I said, honey, what part of strategic partner did you not understand?
Right.
And I said, but this truck at this price is not going to last. If we don't go get it, it's going to be gone. Well, where'd you find it? On Facebook. Well, there's a lot of scams on Facebook. I said, Jesus Christ. Don't you think we've already
she's looking out for your best interest?
Don't you think we're grown ass adults with brains that can decipher when and where and how we want to do things? It's just a nightmare. Blockchain, please, Lord, come quickly.
Yeah.
And release.
So
it's just
people are saying that Carl's GoFundMe is closed. Do you think about that?
Well, that's true. I just saw that the organizer has currently disabled new donations to this fundraiser. I was not aware of that. Well,
I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll talk to Nikki this week and find out how we can continue to donate. Maybe I don't know. Maybe she doesn't. Does it age out, Chris, or anything like that? Time out or anything like that?
I don't think so. I mean, it said disabled by the organizer.
Okay.
I don't know. It could be some legal thing. It could be who the hell knows? It's 2023.
We'll figure it out, and we'll bring it back to you next week. Okay. Thanks for your effort in trying to do it, and we'll figure it out. So if nothing else, we'll have it. We'll do it. I'll do it for them. If we'll put up a place to send it, and we'll collect it, and we'll take him a check. So we'll make it happen. So
here's a good one. What are some questions and topics to talk about to weed out the amoeba drivers out of the hiring process?
Oh shit!
Listen, when we have, so we'll get a submission on the website and we'll look at it, and there's not many that we throw away because generally people that are aware of us and come through that, they're at least aware of what we're doing, right? And so we're probably going to talk to 90% of the people. It'll be you live in Idaho or California or Montana or something. I can't hire. You know what I mean?
A lot of our vetting is not because of the amoeba part of it. It's because of either the experience or the geographical location. That's the first two cuts that happen. Then after that, then we can kind of go into. But like Chris says, we get most of our submissions now are multi-podcast episode listeners, and so if they didn't agree with it, they wouldn't be in here. Now the ones we have to really, really deal with amoebas are the ones we get from Landstar. And I had one today. I got one today, Chris. I need to tell you about sometime.
Okay.
But I had a good one today. All right. So, but those are the ones. I mean, those are truck drivers. They have a list that Landstar puts out of all fleet owners. Okay, that might. Well, all of them need. Believe me when I tell you this. Everybody on that list is dying. Begging for drivers. I got on that list years ago. I just haven't removed myself. But in that list, there's places to put stuff about yourself. And we have our website. We have explicit information about what we do and everything. They don't read it. They just, you got a job, dude. What do you all pay? So there's your first questions right there. What's the equipment and what do y'all pay? There's your first two amoeba.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
See ya.
So, but listen, it's tough. Okay. I mean, Chris said the other day, if we were in the business of hauling freight with truck drivers, neither one of us would be here.
Nope.
If it weren't for what we're doing here, the education thing, and working with people like we listen, we have the best crew right now that I've ever had, and top to bottom, I have 11 drivers out there active right now. I've never had 11 drivers active before. And so we are kicking ass and taking names, and with really, really, really good people. But it's look how hard we work. I mean, every weekend we're on this podcast, and we have 167 of them that people can listen to. And it's didn't know it then, but it's the goose that laid the golden egg, and that's the primary the reason why I still continue to do this with him, because every Friday night at about 10:30 when I get finished one, I'm thinking in my mind, how about that be my last one? How about I not do this anymore? But then, by the next week, I'm going, yeah, we got 4 or 5 trucks in the pipeline right now that we probably need to have a recruiting, topic here tonight, because we need 4 or 5 drivers here in the next couple months. So we'll show you how this works if you want to watch. So
let me hit this one as a piggyback off of this. It says, but what if you're a married team from New Mexico who's willing to live in the truck and learn? Yeah, absolutely. Now, here's the thing, and Larry's been burned this way. I had a guy in California that said, "Man, listen, I don't need to ever go home. I don't need to go home. It doesn't matter that I live over here. I ain't nothing for me in California." So Larry hires him.
The truck he put cannot go to California.
Yeah,
he would have had to park it in Reno. Okay,
and then he's like, "Oh, well, I got to go home for this and I got to go home for that." And it's the same thing we tell guys in Florida. It's like, this is 18 months. Okay. You can do anything for a short period of time. So for 18 months, get up on the wheel, learn, do the program, then go do whatever you want. But yeah, go to the website, fill out the form. We'll do an interview. But you got to understand, and this is the other answer to Spilly Built's question. When we do an interview, we tell you straight up, listen, I hope you brought your mouth guard and your steel toes, because we're going to punch you in the mouth and step on your toes, because we've got to make sure you understand what you're getting into, right? Because everybody's like, I'm like, Larry always starts with, do you have any business experience? Have you ever been in business? And why do you want to be in business? That's the first 2 questions that we start with.
And if the answer is I don't know and I don't know, it's a short interview.
Right. And if it's free, well, I want to be free. From what? Right. Well, you want to be free from. You're not going to be free from responsibility. You're going to be much, much, much more responsibility.
Or accountability.
Yeah. You're not going to be free from accountability. You're not going to be free from work. You're not going to work less. You're going to work more, a lot more. You're going to work, and sometimes.
But it sounds like we're hard asses, Chris. But you understand, they're here for 18 months to learn how to be and stay in business in whatever climate comes along. And that's you don't do that by coming here and hauling half the load you haul when as a company driver. You don't do that by coming here and working half as hard as you do as a company driver. Business is hard. Half of all businesses fail. Half of all businesses fail. I'll say it again. Half of all businesses fail. 90% of first-time truck businesses fail. So if this were just something anybody could do, those numbers would not be there. So to improve the odds of you making it, period, and then making it as a first-time truck owner, it takes a huge effort. And we're willing to give you that, but you've got to come match that effort. And but to get back to your question, a married couple that wants to live in a truck, I'll talk to you. We'll see. I'm not big on teams, but I do like married teams, because you guys won't quit. If you've worked out all the differences to stay married for a while, there ain't nothing going to come up in that truck that's going to screw that up. So that'd be I've always told Chris, I don't like teams unless but I prefer empty nest married people, because they don't have the kids to deal with, and they've been through a lot. So those teams probably will make it.
Just understand that there's not a lot of traditional what you would call team freight at Landstar.
Right.
You're going to run super solo. You're going to run
You're gonna have
4,000 miles a week,
Yeah, with
4,500 miles a week.
2 logbooks. You're gonna have a non-log issue week. So you're not gonna learn ELD management it's, as a team here, because you're gonna have plenty of ELD to go around. So,
But you can, if you can come in as a team and we can put you on, $10,000, $12,000 a week, you'll learn the system, so that when you're done with the program, you can start your business on a solid foundation where you're not going to fail. And then as a team, knowing all of the intricacies of the communication, the building relationships, a team can come to Landstar and get into some stuff that just would blow your mind
yeah,
at the
absolutely.
kind of money that you can make.
Absolutely.
It's huge.
Right.
I mean, we know some teams that, good God,
Right.
I've seen with my own eyes a $30,000 freight bill.
Well,
But it takes time.
we did a video yesterday, kind of teaching our truck owners how to read settlements. And the example, I didn't pick it for this reason, but once we started looking at it, it was a $16,000 team week.
Mhm.
So that's nothing to shake your head at. So we get them to run Alaska runs.
No.
You guys, hey, let's stop for a second here. Listen, guys, August 19th and 20th, and you see how fun this is at a distance. Imagine we're all in the same room doing this, okay, and learning and sharing and networking. And August 19th and 20th in Hurricane, West Virginia, okay, the Reset Your Mindset 2023, one night, well, one weekend only one. This is the only one. And I always say that this is the last time I'm going to do. So this may be true. So you might want to not take a chance on missing this one, because I might not ever do it again. Saturday and Sunday. It's at well, you can see it there. That's the facility, beautiful facility. We'll have Rocky and Chris Dolan out in the parking lot working on trucks, and if you need to have an alignment done, you can have that done while you're there. Come on in, spend 2 days with us, learning how to reset your mindset to get in business, stay in business, survive in business, and we'll pull the curtains back and make the sausage right in front of you. So we need to we need to have you guys here for that, so you guys we're gonna have a big party Friday night when everybody gets there, and we're gonna do the podcast live from the lobby of the hotel with a big party. And then all day Saturday and all day Sunday, we're gonna get together and learn and share and network, and we're gonna give you breakfast and lunch each day. And and if you'll sign up between now and July 1, we knock $100 off. So
7 days left.
So jump in there, get your seats reserved. We sold it out last year, so get on there. We'll have all this fun and much more. So we got a bunch of Chris. We have pictures from last year that people can see.
They're on the event page.
Okay, so when you go to register, look at the event page. We got a bunch of pictures from last year there. You can see. So you might see people there, but anyway, we would love to have you. Okay, we would love it. We'd love to teach you, the things that we do. I mean, that's Chris and I both. That's what we do this for. We, like we said, if we were hauling freight and dealing with truck drivers, I'd been gone before I even met him. But not what we want to do. But we do love sharing. We do love teaching. We do love let you kind of learn what we. I've been in business now for almost 50 years. Chris has been a truck driver for 26 or 7 years. And we put all that together and package it up and let you guys learn from what we have done. We've been pretty successful. We're here we are. People are talking about how to they can't haul freight for these rates. What are we going to do? I mean, here we are growing. I mean, I have more trucks and more drivers now than I've ever had in this shitty climate that everybody says they can't operate in, but we have no problem doing it. And the drivers make money. I'm making money. The truck owners making money. Landstar's making money. everybody is making money here, and we're having a ball. So anyway, you're already signed up. Well, good. I'm glad. So you're the team, right? You're coming as a
Yep.
team. Well, listen, you won't even leave. We'll just hire you while you're there. We'll put you in a truck while you're there. Just bring your clothes, okay? So
The podcast will be on Friday night live from the hotel bar.
yes.
So,
And Nick, the official Blue Ribbon bartender, is coming out of retirement just for this event. So, and he's a hoot too. But it'll all be good. All right, what we need to talk about? Greetings from the high desert of California. I know who that is. You're in some bar in California, aren't you?
let me think. There was all kinds of stuff that happened this week. Oh yeah, yeah. So Yellow, YRC, Yellow World. I guess it's called Yellow now. Was YRC Worldwide. They've been in trouble for about, let's see, how long have I been in the business? 26 years.
Well,
They've been in trouble for 26 years. So
they merged with who was the big company up there that they merged with?
Well, it was, so back in the day, it was Consolidated Freightways, ABF,
right? ABF,
Yellow, Roadway. There's one more I'm trying to think of.
I was trying to think of ABF.
So Consolidated Freightways, everybody called it Cornflake. They went out in probably 2000, 2001, something like that. They went belly up. Old Dominion is in most of their old terminals, especially the big one in Harrisburg. That was a Consolidated Freightways. Then Yellow and Roadway were both in big trouble, all for the same reasons, exact same reasons they're in trouble today. So they merged and became YRC Worldwide, got a bunch of, money from the government, got a bunch of COVID money. And they're still in trouble because their legacy costs, their labor cost is outrageous. And guys, it's time, just, I'm sorry, shut her down, and of course, then we got the big UPS strike, which I heard something today. There was a guy talking about this. I bumped into the last time they had a big contract negotiation, I think was 2018. That'd be right, 5 years. And I bumped into a UPS driver, one of the line haul guys down to TA in Hurricane. And I said, hey, because they were threatening to shut down. Oh, we're going to go on strike. And this guy had been there like 30 years. And I said, man, just tell me what's up. He said, it's all horseshit. He said, don't nobody want this contract. And Jimmy Hoffa had put in some kind of, snuck in some language that made a 2/3 deal because they had voted the contract down. If I remember this number right, they had voted the contract down by 54% and it still got pushed through. So apparently the new guy, O'Brien, has taken that out. But they're not going to ratify this contract. I don't think they're going to vote for it. They're probably going to go on strike. And it's going to overload the postal service. But dude, UPS does a lot of truckload stuff. And guess who's got a bunch of trucks to do truckload with? OTR carriers. So I'm not worried about 9,100 drivers sounds bad. I mean, because it's a big number. There's 3 million. There's 3 million Class 8 drivers. 9,100. I mean, if you're accustomed to that kind of pay and those kind of benefits, and somebody yanks that rug out from under you, it's going to be very uncomfortable. And I don't wish ill on you, and I hate you're going to have to go through it. But that's why I don't work for union companies. I never have, because I absolutely did not ever want that rug yanked out from under me.
Took the words right out of my mouth. That's what you get for signing up to be in a union company. So, where's all those protections, by the way?
Oh yeah, good luck with that.
Are we on TikTok tonight?
No,
we're not. Okay, I've been looking all over the place trying to find some TikTok.
Yeah. Well, I've been a little busy.
I get that. He's got a side hustle now. He's fleet manager and now tow truck driver. Okay, so
It's going to drive me to drink. Well, there's something right on the edges of my mind that I wanted to talk about because it had to do with the big carriers, um, and I've said it on TikTok. It's almost like people don't believe it. Add up all the big carriers, every single one of them, any one that you can think of, add them all together. They're less than 15% of the trucks on the road. They are not representative of the trucking industry at large. They're just not. Oh, I know what it was. Automatic transmission restrictions has got my dander up.
okay.
Our new driver,
Tell
okay?
us how you feel. Oh, I know. I'm sure, man. Yeah.
If you are hearing the sound of my voice and you are interested in becoming a truck driver, or you know someone that is interested in becoming a truck driver, do not, under any circumstances, sign up for one of these carrier sponsored trucking schools where they will inflict upon you the slavery, indentured servitude of an automatic transmission restriction on your license.
Yeah.
Now, I had checked into this, I don't know, probably 2 years ago, because a friend of mine that I drove with back in the day, back in the 90s and early 2000s, had left the industry for 20 years, decides to get back in it, but hasn't had a license for 20 years, did not want to go back to truck driving school. He found a little place down here in southern West Virginia, paid $1,000. They ran him through the pre-trip. They did the road test, got his Class A CDL back. He found a company that would take him and put him through a, training program for 3 or 4 weeks. And he's back to driving like he'd never done. It's $1,000. I thought, man, what a deal. Well, surely getting an automatic transmission restriction should cost less than that, right? Wrong. Our new driver has an automatic transmission restriction. She wants to get it removed. We have manual trucks, so at some point I'll bring her in here and brush her up on shifting and get her ready. But because of the federal entry-level driver training garbage that's useless, $2,400 minimum plus 5 days in a class. So you're going to lose at least $1,500, $1,700, $1,800 in income. Plus you got to pay $2,400 for nothing, absolutely nothing, to get an automatic transmission. Who benefits from that? Who benefits from automatic transmission restrictions? Is it drivers? Is it the motoring public? Who benefits? 15% of the industry that can bring people in and hook them up with an automatic transmission restriction on their license. So now you're an absolute slave to these corporations because you can't drive for the other 85% of the industry. You're stuck. And they lure people in there and they dangle, oh, here's some free school. I'll give you free school. They're like a damn white van rolling around the neighborhood with free candy on the side. It's absolute nonsense, and it pisses me off. So y'all are going to have to stop falling for it. It's absolutely immoral, and it's got to stop. Absolutely got to stop. So that was my.
What about
rant.
the I-95 bridge getting repaired in 2 weeks?
Did you see they had the jet drivers from Pocono down there?
I saw that. Yeah, I did.
I mean, listen, congratulations. I mean, compared to the lunatic that was in the governor's office before in Pennsylvania, I mean, this old boy at least seems able to get some shit done. What's his name? Josh, not Shapiro, something.
I couldn't tell.
But anyway,
I don't like politicians in my own state.
Yeah. Well, congratulations, Governor. You're probably a psychopath on 95% of other issues, but you did a good job on this one.
Well, we'll see if it happens first.
Holy crap. Look here.
What?
Watch out because they'll promise to teach you without restriction and break that promise when you're already in class. We've just paid $4,500 to get rid of our
Well,
restriction.
that's the team. So that's probably 2 people.
Well, so $2,250 a
That's
piece. That
how
matches up.
how did you guys avoid the lease purchase scam?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Did we just get a Leonardo special from Chris?
Listen, I've handed out my share of specials. I handed out a couple this week. As a matter of fact, I don't remember who was the recipient, but I handed out a couple.
I've been able to chill. I've taught him so well. I let him. He's like a lap dog. I just stick him on him, and then if if he breaks the collar or breaks the leash, I'm right behind him. But he's gotten so good at it, and he loves doing it. That's the thing. See, I don't really like doing it. I will do it if I have to, but he runs at the chance. Okay, he's like, let me go at him. So it's fun to watch.
Yeah, it's like lease purchase. I mean, they're taking advantage of people that have absolutely no economic education, have no financial education. They, come out of these government schools, don't know nothing about nothing. And then and so who was it I was talking to? Oh, it was Justin Martin when he was on here in your absence.
Yeah.
He was pointing out that a lot of people end up in trucking because, especially during COVID, right? Because they would get laid off or unemployed or whatever. And a lot of the states, I know they do it here in West Virginia. Well, you have to prove, in order to keep your unemployment benefits coming, you have to prove that you're looking for work. And a lot of times they'll be like, well, you don't have anything better to do. Here, try truck driving and we'll pay for it, as a part of some unemployment program. Well, now you're taking people that end up in trucking by accident.
Right.
And I came into it with I had an uncle that drove for 40 years and I mean, at least I kind of sort of understood it a little bit. But it's still, it's still taking advantage of people, and signing up for stuff that they don't understand. And it ought to be illegal, but you know,
Hey, wait a minute now. You want the government to get involved, make it illegal?
well, no, I don't.
No, we don't want to do that. Somebody read the lease and did the math. Holy crap!
Yeah.
I've never read that before anywhere. You read the lease and did the math. Wow. I bet you didn't leave the room with it.
Yeah. We just got to stop being taken advantage of. And it's Zeke. So, Zeke and I, that one thing benefit that I have to, occasionally going on a drive is I either get to listen to a podcast or a book, or I get to have a 2-hour long conversation with Zeke. And we just had this fascinating conversation today about if you were going to do a TED Talk that was about having a conversation with your 20-year-old self.
Yeah.
You had the opportunity. What would you say? What kind of information would you try to say, hey, 20-year-old self, I'm 47-year-old self. Here's what I've been through. Here's what I would like for you to know. Right. And so we kind of came up with this little list. One was, number one, who benefits? Always ask that question, no matter what you come up on, especially if someone's trying to scare you into doing something or trying to pressure you in some way. Who benefits? Ask that question. There's a couple others, but so y'all be looking forward to Zeke's TED Talk coming soon.
Okay.
Oh yeah. So Rakowski, I remember him talking about this. My trucking school was just shy of 4 months for $5,000 worth every penny and time put in. Clarify this, but this was like an evening deal or a weekend deal or something like that, where I think you could continue working while you were doing it kind of on the side. But one of my friends went to this was 98. He went to a trade school in Oklahoma and was there like a month, now, of course, he couldn't drive a 2-inch peg up a goat's ass anyway. So, He struggled, bless his heart. But it was better. I got 4 weeks on the backside of the Nashville airport. They taught us how to shift, taught us how to do the back and this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
But it's like people will say, well, why is your program 18 months? Y'all, 18 to get 47 years of business and 25 years of trucking into your head in 18 months is a tall order. It ain't long enough. Hell, it ought to be 36 months probably, but we got it. And we've proven the model. I feel like we've 100% proven the change that we made at the beginning of the year, where we broke this up into phases. Because before we'd set you down for a weekend and we just give it all to you and go, hey, right, wish you the best of luck. That did not work.
Yeah. No.
Didn't work at all. But I feel like now we are starting small, not overwhelming you, getting you baby steps, and then a little bit more, and then a little bit more. And let's say it, we've got 11 trucks seated right now with the best crew we've ever had. So,
so James, have wedding bells rung yet?
Oh yeah,
Have
there was a wedding in his future.
Yeah,
I believe. If not, there's still time. I saw William was in the house, and I saw
he had a couple of comments back there.
Well, this is interesting. What's your 5-year plan? Well, let's see. In 5 years, Larry's going to be 74.
Correcto.
All right. How much time is left on your contract? I think I said you had to live to be 92.
We have a 25-year contract. We've now done 5 years of it.
Okay.
So in 5 years, we'll have done 10 years on it. So right. I'm buying out my last 15 years. Okay.
Okay.
So you're not going to get 5 more is all you're going to get.
You imagine his 90-year-old ass on this podcast? That'd be great.
Yeah. I hope at 90 I can do the podcast. Okay. Yeah. Hope I can string words together that people would want to listen to. So
I'm hoping 50. But this is an interesting question because all businesses have some sort of growth trajectory, right?
Right. Sure.
And we're at 11 trucks seated. We got 4 in the pipeline, so that's 15. I mean, somebody's going to have to. We're going to have to call Josh's wife because he's going to have to stop buying trucks for just a little while.
Josh has got the fever. He got so much time up in Alaska to think. And I think the temperature must be affecting his judgment a little bit. So,
I mean, I'm not even home with the one he just bought. And he's like, hey, here's another one. I'm like, hey,
I've got to hire a full-time restoration guy just to fix his trucks, get them ready. So,
but here's the problem. Okay. Right now, I am the fleet manager. Okay. And I am the guy that is in charge of watching over all of this and making sure that it stays together. Well, we can't bring somebody off the street to do what I do.
Right.
They have to come from in the program, the Richies and Seths and Evans and Jareds. And we have to grow our middle management from inside because you have to be on the inside. And so we're probably by the end of this year, we're going to be reaching the limits of what I can handle, especially if I'm going to be going all over the country picking up trucks that Josh is buying.
We can hire a tow truck driver. We can't hire a fleet manager.
Right.
Don't get comfortable with that. Okay.
Yeah. So, well, we might need a few more mechanics too.
Yeah, for sure.
But as we reach that limit for what I can handle, there's going to have to be somebody come under me and take a portion of that load. Well, the business obviously has got to make enough money and profit to pay for that person. And so we're going to get to a point where we've got to be preparing who is that next person to come in and sit in this seat. What we kind of like, we've talked about before is if we had those people and each one of them had 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 trucks to watch over, there's really no cap. I mean,
No.
If we 5x'd what we're doing right now, that'd be 55 trucks, right? 55 people in the program, all the orientations, all of the different phases, all of the, you know,
the scale would cause it would look a little different because we at that point in time we certainly would have to have our own shop, and there'd be a lot of things we'd have to have that we don't, we'd probably look at back end office at that point in time as well. But the pinch point, and people ask me this all the time, is that what's our limit? Where do we cap? And there's a couple people here right now that have asked that question. It caps at middle management because we have to produce it. We can't hire them. And so even though there's really, really good, sharp people that would want to do that, they have to have you have to live this. You have to have been, one of the things I think that make us, and I found a meme just today that I kept because I thought it was so appropriate. Here, I saw this today. People buy into the leader before they buy into the vision. And I think that's what attracts people. The podcast gives them an opportunity to buy into us. And then they start seeing our vision because our vision is really unnatural in the industry. But I think they see the compassion and the passion that we have, and the credibility that we bring, and all of a sudden now the vision becomes. So if we can continue to do that, and involve people that want to, and the probably the most probably the person that's going to fit this bill the most is someone that comes through the program as a truck driver and owner operator that didn't think when they came here. Because I tell everybody that comes to orientation, look, your goalpost is likely going to move in the next 18 months. You came here thinking you wanted to be a truck owner. I think you're going to see that you might want to end up being something else before you leave here. And I think we got a couple people who believe that, and so I think we're going to have another little program in the program to produce these fleet leaders, middle management people. So it's just another exciting growth opportunity for us. And we've got people that want to get involved. They don't have the experience right now to do it, but they want to be involved and they want to get involved. I got to make that happen somehow. I've got to be able to let people come in and see what we do. But that's really that. To answer your question, William, that's our 5-year plan right there. Now, I think you probably directed that towards people who are watching, as part of an interview question. That's typically where we hear that. But I think that's that describes what we're looking at doing, here. So we attract a lot of truck owners, but we have to be very careful about how how we enter those relationships, because the truck owner with us is just as vital, and that relationship is just as critical as the program participant, because they have to understand what we do here. That's why we don't take investors. Investors just want to return on the money. They have no interest in the driver and all the things that we do here. It's part of that. But that's how big fleets operate. That's not how we're going to operate here. So.
Let's see. Mark says, trucking is going to be my retirement plan. I'm going to run 6 months of good weather and then go to a cheap third world country and eat tacos for 6 months.
when we first thought that Richie wanted to do this, I just, I hear Richie joking and carrying on. I assumed he wanted to get 5 trucks so he could go back home to Florida and smoke dope and fish.
Yeah.
But he's, no, I want to dispatch him. So we're actually letting, he's kind of an assistant dispatcher right now. So he's getting his taste of that. Listen, he's doing good. He's good. Listen, Richie he's phenomenal. He has really, really, really been a surprise to you. I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just, I think Richie surprised himself, I don't think he had any idea that that he would be where he is right now, but awesome. Leon had a good school, paid out of pocket, and so did I. Only auto they had wasn't road legal. There you go. Joshua, 7 trucks, learning from Larry. Yeah, well, you're a good guy to have around, Josh. I have to say that. You're really, really good. Those questions were in response to how we weed out amoebas, but love the inside. What you got there, Chris?
Josh talking about his wife taught the Dave Ramsey class, and us referencing those principles was what made him want to get involved.
Yeah,
Um,
nice. Good deal.
All right, here we go. How does an owner operator start stepping up to a fleet? Well, you need a podcast. Um,
You need us.
Well, it's I thought about it when I was before I ever met Larry, when I just had a truck. I think every person that owns a truck thinks, well, if I had another one, and I had another one and I had another one, you can do the math that says, um, well, one's good, two ought to be better. But I think number one, you have to look at it kind of like you would if you had rental property and real estate. Number one, you are not going to have occupancy 100% of the time. So take your expectations of revenue and cut them in half, and take your expectations of expenses and double them. And so I'm going to tell you right now, it would be harder, really, really, really hard. And I can't imagine. Like, I mean, we have 11 trucks. We operate 11 trucks. There's 11 drivers. There's payroll. There's all the things that has to be done. I can't imagine doing it not having this program. I just had to hire people off the street, in the driver shortage, and put them in a truck. And then I'm going to go knock on doors to get customers. Depending on truck drivers to satisfy those contracts. That terrifies me.
Yeah, I think to restate what you're saying, here's the problem. Okay, you're never going to hire you. You think you will, but I've tried my whole life to hire me. The closest thing I've come to is across the desk from me right here. But that's one out of a trillion. I've already got him. You can't have him. Okay, so that's the biggest disappointment you're going to have is the people that you hire. Okay, the other thing you have to realize is that once you make that hire, it's no longer about trucking. All of a sudden now it's HR, human resources.
Yeah.
That and if you're not good with people, if people won't, again, go back to that saying, if people won't see you first, they'll never see your vision. And so you can't pay enough money to get them to see your vision unless it's genuine. And look, a lot of every truck that we had originally were because BCOs had bought second and third and fourth trucks to do what you're talking about doing, and all of them have trouble keeping drivers in them because they're hiring a driver. A driver will leave for a quarter, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the hard part about it. That's why what we do is so different, and that's why I'm still doing it at 69 years old. Is because I love this part of it. I love what we're doing. I love the opportunity that you're giving people, and I don't deal with truck drivers. I mean, we may deal with them for a couple of weeks, but then they pretty much flush themselves out pretty quickly. So
Now, I guess to be fair, what people want from us is an education.
right,
Well, I can give you that.
an experience.
Okay, if you are, and certainly there are people that are able to do this, are able to give drivers what they're after. It could be the kind of truck, could be the freight, whatever it is. And you can market yourself and your business to attract those kind of people. But I can tell you, that even as small as we have been at times, and thinking, man, there's 3 million drivers on the road. I only need 5 of them.
Right.
And boy, those 5 were hard. And I mean, Luke, I think we need to get Luke on this podcast because, here's a guy, young man. Okay. What is it? 21, 2, that got into the business when everybody else did.
I don't think he's
Right.
old enough to drink.
Got into the business when everybody else did. And hey, man, let's buy some trucks, buy some trailers, put drivers in them. Boy, and then you find out, you know,
Right.
and then the market shifts, and you really find out, you know. I would love to get Luke to come on here and tell his story from his perspective.
That's a good idea. It's a good idea.
Had a driver leave after orientation over a hotel room. Couldn't give us 30 minutes to look for loads first.
I listen. I mean, you don't have to convince me. I understand. But that and when I talk about truck, this is what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about you guys. I'm not talking about guys who I'm talking about this kind of attitude, this mentality. And man, it's rampant. It's just rampant. And so it's again, that's the thing that we never ever ever predicted that the podcast would do, would be to sort through all of this murky shit and produce a constant steady flow of these people like we've got, and like a lot of you guys are, that see it for something different. They're not interested in the what kind of tires you're going to have, and what kind of chrome you're going to have, and what kind of seats you're going to have, and what kind of what can I do to financially secure me and my family. What can I do so that I'll be able to retire, and not have to be driving a truck when I'm 70 years old. So I mean, that's really what we're. A lot of people like driving because they enjoy it, but at the end of the day, it's still a business. Okay. And if you enjoy driving and you don't make any money, and at the end of the day you can't retire because you didn't, that's just a hobby. That's not a business. We have to look ahead, and we have to plan for that, and we have to plan for the quote that I love this word. I hate this word, the unexpected.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not unexpected. It is expected. All right, things are going to happen. You're going to need money. You're going to get sick, and there's things just going to happen. Look at Carl. Whoever predicted that? But you got to prepare yourself. Now's the time. You can never get. You don't get any younger. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So don't kick the can. One of the things I really, really drilled into Richie's head. I said, "Look, dude, you're 23 years old. Okay, you have no idea the advantage that you have over somebody that comes here as 30, much less 40 or 50. But the time value of money, okay, the things he's learned, the money that he can save and invest as a 23-year-old, and what that's going to pay off at 60 and 65 versus starting at 30 and 40 and 55. I mean, just think, man, how would you like to go back to 23-year-old knowing what you know right now? And how many things would you do financially different? Well, here's a guy that has the opportunity to start out doing that, not have to go back and regret and do it over again. Start out, We've had a couple of the youngsters that come here, and they didn't, they weren't like Richie. They thought they had plenty of time, so they didn't take it seriously. This is too hard. This is, I don't really want to work this hard, but they lost a huge opportunity because they had the opportunity to have 40 years of time for that money to work for them, and now they're going to kick that can down the road by like everybody else. They're going to go into debt, buy a bunch of shit, and then they'll be 50 before they figure out, and they've lost 30 years, that they can't get back. So that's kind of a downer, wasn't it? I just brought the whole thing down, didn't I?
Yeah, I'm running on about a quarter tank right now. So my head hurts, my back hurts, and I'm super tired.
These youngsters, they just can't hang, can they, huh? Well, Chris, do we need to talk about our new sponsor yet, or is that still in the works?
I think it's still in the works. We've got
right.
some just details we've got to put together, but probably next week we should be able to start talking about that. I got to get some materials.
We got a new sponsor that we're pretty excited about. I think especially you guys that have your authority. We really got a product for you. Okay. Guys at Landstar, it may end up being a Landstar product anyway, by the end of the day, but right now it's going to be really, really exciting for you guys that that don't have some of these Landstar applications that we talk about. So, if I buy a 2010 Columbia with a blown engine, can I well, a 2010, no. Well,
Not well.
not unless it was if it was a glider, yes. If it comes with a DD15, no, you cannot.
Well, a 2010 Columbia is not going to have a DD15. It's probably going to have a Series 60, but it's not going to have a 12.7. It's going to have a 2010 is going to have a DPF. If it has a DPF, it has to have a DPF.
Yeah,
No, you can't do it.
You can't change the emission system in it. And a
Do
2010 is
not-
going to be a 2008 emission system.
Do not buy anything built between 2008 and 2015. Just don't do it.
Absolutely.
Just don't do it.
Just
Well,
saying.
here's the thing. Can you? Sure you can.
Yeah,
Is
but
it a
he
good
said-
idea? No, it's a terrible idea because it's too much risk. And you guys are going to have to learn how to calculate because risk has a monetary value.
Yeah.
And if you get busted with it or you have a problem somewhere and you can't get somebody to work, it's just there's too much risk. It's not worth doing. I just drug home a 2007 that needs a little TLC for $15,000. But 1.6 million, it's a good solid truck, and it'll be a moneymaker.
Well, his question is, can he legally replace it? And the answer is no.
No, absolutely
You can
not.
only replace it with what it has in it from an emission standpoint. So
Can you find somebody who'll do it? Sure, you can. They'll
this-
take your money.
this will be no problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, all the trucks on the ground, are, you can calculate the chances of getting caught. But listen, you'll be the one that gets caught. You'll find all these hillbillies running up down the road and they got these deleted trucks and all this crap. Don't be that guy. Don't be the one that gets caught, and then has all of that risk on you. When he's saying that your truck's for sale for $4,000. Well, about buy it for $4,000, strip it down, and junk it. It's probably got a bunch of good parts on
The
it.
parts are worth that probably, but I
Yeah.
wouldn't change the motor out, or at least just fix it.
I mean, hell, the transmission's worth $2,000, and the rear ends are probably worth $1,000 each. Right there's your money. Take the cab off of it and sell it, but it's not worth the risk. And I don't play those games because I don't want to, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. I'm just not going to do it. I'll take my chances. We've got the truck that I did the TikTok about, that the 14 liters give us all kinds of stuff. That truck's still hauling freight. It's not hauling it super. I mean, it's not hauling it as efficiently as it would if it wasn't having a problem. But the difference between that truck and say a 2010 Cascadia or something that just shuts down and sits there for months, dude, there's a guy sitting at Dolan's with a Cascadia DD15 dropped a valve and they had to end frame it 2 months. And most of that's waiting on parts.
he was camped in a parking lot for 2 months,
2 months.
and they just got the parts in 2-3 days ago.
Yeah. They got the last, I think it was rocker assembly. They had everything else. They had the head, they had cylinder kits, all that stuff put back together. And of course, Herbie got it running and the damn emissions problems. And so he's sorting through all that crap now. But 2 months, that's $40,000 worth of revenue gone. And it's going to cost him probably 25 or more to build the motor. I mean, it's crazy.
What year was it, Chris?
I don't know. I have no idea. I know it's Cascadia. It seems newer, but Rocky. You guys want to invest in my new business, building rocket rides to Mars from old 55-gallon trucks? Listen, I'm gonna tell you what, the internet. I have a really warped sense of humor, and the response to this submarine thing, I mean, it's a tragic situation. Oh, the internet don't give a damn. I mean, the memes about this thing are just.
You got to think that part of it was because they're billionaires.
I
There's no
I
compassion there.
I guess so, but
And
damn,
that's got to be the majority of it. Like that matters, but
yeah. Well, the internet is undefeated, man. Wow, wow. Um, have you guys heard how to make the pre-def ISX bulletproof? I've drove a few and they ran good, did well enough. There are a lot of horror stories out there. The main ones that I've heard about were
soft cams
soft cams.
and fuel pumps.
No, fuel pumps was on the newer ones. Soft cams and cracked heads. Dan, before he bought that classic, he had a 387 Pete, and he rebuilt it twice. And because it was drop liners, cracked heads, and soft cams. And so the cams would just wear out over time.
When did the N14 stop and the ISX start? With EGR?
I believe so, because I don't think they could put EGR. So I remember back at all the truckers called the N14 redhead stepchild because it was a red top, right?
Red top. Yeah.
And that was all through the end of the 90s. Well, the Signature 600 came out in late 99, early 2000, I think. Rocky can probably tell this for sure. But the Signature 600 was the ISX. And Cat 600 also came out, the C16. But you don't hardly see any of those anymore. So right at the end of the 90s, there was this race to high horsepower. And so Cummins and Cat were battling each other for 600 horse. But then just a couple years later, EGR comes out, and that was it. I mean, the N14 was I believe was a pushrod motor, if I remember that right. But I always heard that the problem with N14s would be injectors, but if you ran a fast, I think it would keep them, keep the fuel clean. And I don't know if there's a way to make an ISX bulletproof. It's really not a way to make any engine bulletproof. I mean, we've got a 12.7 in a Volvo right now. Every oil sample was perfect, gave us no drivability issues, and one day just locked up.
Well, the driver probably contributed a little bit to that.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Before we wind down, let's do this again, okay? We have at least four trucks, if not five, in the pipeline. So if you are at all interested in this program, now would be the time to get started because it's going to take us a couple months to get you qualified. So if you're interested, go to our website there, blueribbonlogistics.com. Click on Masterclass 2023. All the details are there. Every word that explains what we do is there. Reach out to us. We'll set up an interview, see if you're a good match for the program. We can start this process. Getting approved does not obligate you, but we do got to get you approved to get you here. So, and that we call that the gauntlet at Landstar. If you ever watch the Landstar Facebook pages, you see everybody bitching about how long it takes to get on. Well, we can grease the wheels a little bit, but it's still going to take a while. So anyway, we are looking for 3 or 4 or 5 drivers in the next few months. So if you want to be one of those, go there. Don't forget, in August, the Reset Your Mindset live event, August 19th and 20th in Hurricane. Great event. Guarantee you'll learn enough in the first half a day to more than pay your way there and whatever time you took off to get there. So. All right.
I think we're good. We'll see y'all next Friday. I'm going to go to bed.
All right.
So come check us out. Website, TikTok, YouTube, all that good stuff. And we will see you guys next Friday night.
Have a great week, everybody. We will talk to you next Friday. I will not, Chris. I don't think I'm going to be here. I'm going to look at the calendar real quick. I think I'm in Chicago. Yes, I am in Chicago. I am in Chicago. I could maybe, I may do it. I may take the stuff with me and do it. So
that sounds like a good idea.
I think you probably want that too. So anyway, I'll be in the Bourbon Barn in Chicago and Naperville next Friday night. So
that sounds like a great place to do a podcast.
All right.
All right.
I'll do it. See you next
See
week,
y'all next
everybody.
week. See ya.
Be